when we're in the shadow of Kyle Field, it's pretty awesome. But I don't know if we'd have better lighting probably in there.
Well, we're still in the shadow here. Hey, Marty, before we get into some football questions, tell us a little bit about Game Change and how you're involved and how it's kind of helping revolutionize NIL.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I appreciate you, brother, asking. Yeah, Game Change is a brand new initiative. You go to gogamechange.com. You input whatever credit or debit card you so choose. And then, you know how you go to the grocery store these days and they ask you, do you want to round up?
Right.
If you go to gogamechange.com and input your credit or debit card of choice, you also choose your school of choice, and every purchase with that card automatically rounds up the change to your athletic department of choice. So all of the Aggies out there, you may not have the money to put your name on a building. Well, a lot of guys down there do, but you may not have that kind of money. But you can do this. You can go to gogamechange.com, input your credit or debit card, and that money goes right to the athletic department overall, and then the athletic department chooses where they disperse that money. It is a charitable donation, so it is a write-off. And it's just a cool new way for people to support financially the teams and the initiatives that they love within their college passions.
I like it, man. I like it. I'm glad you're involved and glad you're here with us here on the program. It's the first week for us, week one for college football. Just your thoughts on this A&M Notre Dame game.
It's a heater, man. I mean, I love the fact that we were talking to Mike Elko at SEC Media Days. Ryan McGee and I were for our show when we have the blessing of sitting the coaches down. I didn't realize that he had never run out of the tunnel before, because as DC, he was always in a box. So this is going to be an amazing moment for him to run out of the tunnel with his guys in a new era that has so much promise for Texas A&M Aggie football against, it ain't even a marquee opponent. It's like the opponent. And then to close the season, reigniting a rivalry that it's ridiculous that rivalry was dormant for some time. But if I were you guys, man, I would be at a fever pitch, because I feel like you can feel the culture shift, which is very hard to do, from what happened with Jimbo to what is now happening under Coach Elko. And I would have very high expectations for this year's team. Now, the SEC is an SOB, buddy. It is. You look at the talent, you look at the depth of talent on these rosters, and you look at the schedules that depth of talent and these coaching staffs have to negotiate, and it ain't fair. But it's why it's the best league in the world. And I would, if I were you guys, man, I would be thrilled for the challenge ahead.
Well, there's a lot of excitement, no doubt about it. And Aggies are always optimistic. I'm curious from your perspective, what do you think the prospects are of Mike Elko running out of that or running back up that tunnel, having a successful debut as Texas A&M's coach?
I think there's a good chance. Look, Notre Dame's going to be a good team. A lot of people really like what they have. They have a stud behind center in Riley Leonard, who Coach Elko obviously knows well. But I really like the roster that he has. He inherited a lot of talent despite the frustrations of the past couple years. And that starts with the quarterback position. You got a guy who has a lot of experience. And had he not gotten hurt last year, I don't know that we would have had the same narrative about last season. And so I think there's a really good chance that they beat Notre Dame.
Marty, I think when you look at Notre Dame for different reasons, similar kind of situation, right? Underperformed. A&M much more underperformed than Notre Dame. But my point is, yes, they have not reached that potential that they expected. You know, with Brian Kelly, they got close. But right now, they still seem like they're a step away. New wide receivers, quarterback coming into the program that's coming off an injury, a defense that's supposed to be one of the best in the country. I see a lot of similarities in this matchup.
I do too, but I think that Leonard is a really good player, dude. What he did at Duke was special. And I mean, I don't know the last time, 1990 when Steve Spurrier was at Duke. I don't know the last time that they really had an offensive weapon and that kind of potency. So now he has really good weapons on the outside, a good offensive line. They always have a good offensive line at Notre Dame. And to your point, a great defense. So it's a formidable opponent. I do see the similarities you're talking about. It's going to be very physical. The trenches will win it. It's going to be loud. It's going to be emotional. And so how does Coach Elko get those guys as they get started? Like, you got to start fast. And so to have the emotional composure, to make sure that you do that, because that's hard to do when you're at home and on national television against a team that has that kind of tradition and pedigree. It's going to be all the juice. I mean, this is a serious matchup.
Marty, with the time you spent with Mike Elko and the opportunities you've had to interview him and whatnot, what impression do you
his
get
composure,
about him?
his even keel approach? He doesn't seem to ride a whole lot of emotional waves. He seems to have a great perspective on, a lot of guys say it. A lot of guys say, we're focused on the next play. He genuinely seems to be. And he has a culture that is no nonsense, no BS. You don't see a lot of prima donna stuff. And in a NIL era where guys, where money is so prevalent and so important, if you can be someone that Kirby Smart does this better than anybody, in my opinion. I think he's able to, in an era where guys' reassessment is how much you going to pay me versus how can you develop me, he's still able to promote G over everything in an amazing way. I talked to some of his players yesterday. I've been all over creation this week. I was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana with Brian Kelly and Mason Taylor Monday. I was in Athens with Carson Beck and Kirby all day yesterday. Had a 30-minute conversation with Billy Napier last night, because that's the game I have this weekend. And the ability to do that, to make sure that the culture and the expectation within that culture is upheld in this era, is a unique talent. And I see Mike having that talent, because he's just not – he doesn't seem beholden to it. Now, y'all got a lot of money down there, and as a result of that, he has a lot of financial resources at his disposal. That's a blessing. But when you get between the lines, that doesn't matter, man. Can you put a hat on a hat? Can you block, tackle, care, love, do? And that's what I see from him. Now, we'll see what happens on Saturday and moving forward, but he was able to do that at Duke. So I have high expectations for him, gentlemen.
Marty, before I let you go, I woke up this morning to a story from Max Olson talking about the NCAA is proposing to eliminate the spring transfer window. I don't know how you feel about it. I'm like, just keep the spring and maybe get rid of I don't know, can we just get some uniform rules and keep it going?
Look, it's bigger than that. Like, it's just, right now, there has to be some uniformity that is established across the country that gives everybody the same parameters in which to work, and everybody will be happy. Because right now, man, there's so much recruiting, there's so much portaling, there's so much money infusion, and that's fine. But, like, what do you think's going to happen now that there's going to be revenue sharing at the player level? Okay, let's have that discussion quickly. I think, okay, cool. I think that the players deserve that, but I also believe within that, maybe it's time for players to sign 3-year contracts with the university where, okay, cool, you're going to get this money now, but you're going to be held to different, more stringent standards where if you decide to jump in that portal and just bounce, there's going to be a buyout from the school you choose, or you're going to have to give money back to a collective, something along those lines. But I don't know. I'm just like, I just want to see some uniformity.
Marty, you're the best, man. Love talking to you on the show. Are you going to be in town this weekend, or what's your assignment this weekend?
I have Miami at Florida. That's why I have those helmets behind me right now.
There we go.
That game is as important a game as there is in the country, just like yours is. You got two coaches who not only need special seasons, they need a win on Saturday. So it's got a lot of juice.
We appreciate you, man. And the website is gogamechange.com to sign up and get that started.
It's a cool initiative, man. Go on there, put your credit or debit card in, gogamechange.com, and you can instantly start supporting the athletic department for the teams you love. I just thought it was a really neat initiative. I'm grateful to be involved, and I'm grateful to you guys for having me on to discuss it, brother.
Let's talk soon, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Marty Smith there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. One of my favorite humans.
Yeah, he's a good guy and fun guy to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love his show.
He's great at his job. He's a very, he's not fake. Like when he talks to you, like he knows your story, he knows your situation. He's awesome. Let's do this. It's kind of a different start to the show. Usually we have introductions, we get into stuff, but let's go right now to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Caitlin Torn making her debut in the new studio. Good morning.
Good morning. It's so nice to be in here. A little different.
Yeah? What do you think about it?
I love it. The social center chair does have a back now. That is probably my favorite part of the new studio, to be honest.
It's big, isn't it?
It is big.
Yeah.
It's big and it's nice.
All right, so let's get into some of your topics this morning.
So Brad Crawford from 247 Sports released his Week 1 predictions with A&M beating Notre Dame this weekend because of the possibility of the Irish having to start 2 freshmen on the offensive line and because of Elko's connection to Riley Leonard. Those are his 2 reasons he sees the Aggies coming out on top tomorrow. And for the first time, since 2021, A&M released their depth chart prior to the opener against Notre Dame, and it's filled with a lot of oars, showing that there's a lot of battles going on practice, especially from the offensive line, defensive backs, and the linebackers.
Gamesmanship, OB.
Yep.
Look, he's good. The obvious ones, you put them out there, right? But if there's questions, you leave it a question.
Yeah, like he even told us that that's some of the more competitive, and before he released the depth chart, that some of the more competitive position battles, you may not know who is the starter until game, just before they take the field. Okay, Armaj, you're going to play guard, you're going to play tackle, so this guy's going to, whatever. So don't ever read too much into the depth charts.
No. All right, let's do this. Let's hit a break. We'll get back on track. Like I said, we usually don't start off with an interview. We'll do a segment. We're going to look at the games this weekend that we need to break down. At some point during the hour, I'd like to go back to that question I asked Marty for you and I to kind of chew on for a little bit. The similarities between the two programs. Obviously, I know OB, Notre Dame's had much more success recently than A&M, right? And historically, I understand that. But I think where we are right now in college football, you can see some similarities heading into this game.
Well, I think one of the things that's not similar is the caliber of schedules that both teams play.
Well
I think
said.
if Notre Dame had played A&M's schedule,
they might be 7-6.
They might have been 7-6 last year.
Yeah. All right, let's hit a break here. So yesterday we had a conference call with the good people at Prize Picks, and if you could have seen Matthew Dawson and Luke Evangelist's face when they were talking, they were like talking to the president, right? They were talking to whatever, their favorite athlete, Michael Jordan, of course, not LeBron. And they were just so into it. And I'm learning about it. So I downloaded the app yesterday, and I'm going to start playing it myself. But Prize Picks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest, most exciting way to play DFS. It's you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. You pick more than or less than 2 to 6 players, stat projections, and watch the winnings roll. So what you need to do is use the code TexAgs when you go there. So it's prizepicks.com/TexAgs and use the code TexAgs and receive 50 guaranteed dollars. I already got my 50 yesterday. And you'll play $5 lineups when you do that. So it's prizepicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs. Easy withdrawals, gameplay, enormous selection of players, stat types, what makes Prize Picks #1 in all of daily fantasy sports. They have weekly promotions that lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections to 25% to provide even more value. PrizePicks.com/TexAgs, the code TexAgs. Check it out.
Texas A&M football released the depth chart ahead of the season opener versus Notre Dame. There are still some question marks at a few positions. The offensive line has not been set, as well as the linebacker and defensive back positions. Left tackle Trey Zune was asked about the position battle at center and says he likes having depth on the offensive line.
Louie. And we are back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Any caller or guest on the show will appear on the Boss Firearms hotline. And Boss Firearms provides high-quality firearms components to their civilian and law enforcement customer base. See what they've got for yourself at bossfirearms.com. OB, we got a lot of games that I think are important this weekend. The first real weekend of college football, 0 week was fun. Right, we got some, but now the games have some intriguing storylines. And the first one I want to start off with is the last one you wrote about in your most recent column, is the Boston College-Florida State game, because of what it means for Florida State, who's already lost the game as the season is starting.
Yeah, they opened the season number 10. Haynes King and somebody else. Haynes King is the quarterback, and Haynes, I already forgot the guy's last name, from running back. And that offensive line just steamrolled Florida State. In fact, the Florida State's kickers, who looks like he's going to be excellent, doesn't bomb 250-plus field goals in the rain, it might have turned out to be just a blowout. But so they lose. They're already 0-1. And coming back from Ireland and all that goes with that, and going up against Bill O'Brien. And so
I think Florida State's got it. They're good.
Maybe.
Actually, no. But OB, when I say you're the OB, but that OB, there's certain things he does very well, right? And he is actually pretty good game planning for a team. His roster management and his decision making at the end of games leave a lot to be desired.
Well, if they're able to, or if Florida State doesn't win that one, I'd say for all practical purposes, they're already out of the playoff race with either that or they're rooting hard for Boston College and Georgia Tech the rest of the way.
I'm intrigued by the Sunday night game because you have two teams that have new quarterbacks that are expected to do big things. And USC, with Lincoln Riley, typically his quarterbacks are going to put up some numbers, right? Garrett Nussmeier gets a lot of love. The defenses on both sides, I don't know if they've done enough to fix it. I have read reports out of USC that's been the biggest focus. I don't know if I've read the same things about LSU, but I think LSU is a much better team.
I think so. But, LSU's lost their last 4 season openers.
Yep.
Going all the way back to, I think, Mississippi State in 2020. I think the biggest matchup of the week is Garrett Riley against the new defensive coordinator. The guy, I'm trying to think of his name. He came down
from Missouri.
From Missouri.
Yep.
But anyway, like you mentioned, Garrett Riley, his teams typically haven't been that great because their defense lets them down, but they've typically been able to throw the ball, score a lot of points, and LSU has to prove they can actually stop somebody from throwing the ball and scoring a lot of points.
An underrated game that I don't think enough people are talking about that I'm super intrigued by is the Penn State-West Virginia game. West Virginia's sneaky good.
They are. They ran the football really well last year, and I got to admit, I don't know a whole lot about who's still around and who they added and things like that, but they ran the ball really well. Penn State's supposed to be a national championship contender, but this is no easy game to start off with.
The Georgia-Clemson game, we've talked about that one quite a bit in the offseason because it is one of the marquee games. I think 2 years ago, I would think it would be a better game than I think right now. And I've said it many times, I like Dabo a lot, but I just feel like he has lost his fastball, as we saw here in College Station a couple years back with their head coach, with A&M's head coach and Jimbo. I don't know if you're going to get it back, especially to start off the season against a Georgia team in Atlanta.
Right. Just the opposite of LSU. Clemson has to show that they can move the ball. And if you have trouble moving the ball, you don't want to play in Georgia, right? By the way, factoid, Kirby Smart is undefeated over the last 5 years against currently active coaches in college football. So
any coach he has played against, he has beat.
In the last 5 years, yeah, that's still active. Nick Saban.
Has retired.
He did beat Clemson 10-3 in his only, and it was a season opener like in 2021, in his only game that he's coached against Dabo.
Well, and we'll close out with the game that we're all excited to talk about, the Notre Dame Texas A&M game. And a question that I had asked Elko, but I'm going to kind of pose it in a conversation sense for us. I believe a lot in everything that they're doing, right? Like right. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. You don't have to join me, but if you want a sip, go ahead. But I do worry about first games because they are exactly that. And in this new world of complete different, like half the A&M roster is different. That being said, the core of the team, the ones that we saw play at a high level last year, are back for the most part. And I just think you have better coaching all around, not just the head coach.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. Again, I think Elko's second day on the job, he fired 2 coaches from who were instructing underachieving positions, and brought in. We talked about it. Brought in Moffitt, brought in the Doherty, the special teams coach, addressed some serious issues. But are you going to work out like our new studio? Are you going to have all the kinks worked out in the first week?
I think if A&M plays their first game the way we've taken this first week at the new studio, a couple of mistakes here and there, high quality. We're talking playoffs, baby. No? Yes? Yes. Yes. Come on. Okay.
Well,
I need you on my team right now.
Okay, but if we're talking, is anyone going to be able to hear us at the beginning?
That was Marty's fault. All right. Thank goodness Josh is not back there listening at the moment. All right, we're going to hit a break here. When we come back, your grandfather, as you said, Kirk Bohls, will join us. Grandfatherly. Houston Chronicle now, so props to him for moving over. But tomorrow is the first day of the eating week at 1775.
Oh, my goodness. First day of the eating week. So you can go.
What's your favorite thing there?
I got to tell you, I love ribs anyway.
Right.
And I had some of those pork ribs, and they were spectacular.
You made a comment about the pork ribs while we were there.
Yeah,
Can you share it?
Yeah, well, there's a place up in East Texas that I used to go to a lot, and I've always thought that was the best pork ribs I've ever had. And then I had those at 1775. And oh my gosh, these are as good, if not better. I mean, I was blown away by how good the pork ribs were.
True story. OB would cuddle with those, after he eats them. That's how much you love those ribs.
Well, it'd be cuddling with the bones then, because I will eat the ribs.
Yes, that's exactly what I meant. Veteran-owned, family-owned. You got to say hi to the folks there, Brad, Brandon. They've got their mom, Belinda, who's the master of the sides and the desserts. Brandon's wife, Glenda, helps get things out the window. They're open Thursday through Saturday, so that's tomorrow, 11 a.m. until they're sold out, and they get sold out like that, by the way. Loud snap. Online ordering turns off at 10 a.m. 8203 Raymond Stotzer Parkway, Suite C, College Station, 77845-979-492-6241. The website, 1775txbbq.com. Go check it out.
Get the macaroni and cheese.
Yum. And we are back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. David Nuño, OB Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. It is now time for Renewing the Rivalry, presented by Duck Camp. Duck Camp gear is made for the people that live for the moments out there where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, and football to watch. Check out the gear at duckcamp.com. With that, we go to the legend.
The Duck.
The Duck himself.
Yeah, we should have a Duck Camp sponsor because it's a tailored duck. And let me say personally, I'm extremely excited for this segment with Kirk Bohls, former co-worker, mentor, grandfather figure. And I'm always relishing the opportunity to set him straight on his bizarre opinions.
Kirk, good morning, man. Thank you for joining us.
There's a first time for everything, right, Olin? Thanks, David. Great to be with you guys.
Kirk Bohls is now with the Houston Chronicle on the Boss Firearms Hotline. So part of the focus of this segment is we're going to look back at this amazing rivalry between A&M and Texas throughout the years. We're going to choose certain games to kind of focus in on for a few minutes, and then we'll talk some other general college football things. But looking back, the first game you wanted to focus on was the 1989 A&M-Texas game, which A&M won 21-10. It was also R.C. Slocum's first game against Texas as the head coach. And by the way, it'll be Coach Elko's first year. So, Kirk, what do you remember about that game?
Well, actually, I was on the A&M beat that year. I was on the A&M beat for about 5 years, working for the American Statesman, David. And that was the start of R.C. Slocum's, tenure, taking over for Jackie Sherrill. I think he'd been hired December before in 1988. And in 1989, Texas really was kind of limping in there. It was right in the middle of the David McWilliams experiment, and that's what it was. It didn't experiment. It didn't pass muster, if you will. He'd only been 1 year at Texas Tech, and they were 5-6, I think, coming into that game, and just got blistered by Baylor like 50-7. But what I remember mostly about that was Lance Pavlis. You remember him, the great quarterback? He was a 4-year Letterman. I don't know how many years he started, but he was going to be the Aggie savior. And I remember he and Percy Waddle hooked up on a touchdown pass, and they just really kind of took it to Texas. I think Texas scored first and then got like a field goal the last 3 quarters. What do you remember about it, Olin?
I didn't see the game. I'm sure that day I was out covering a Chapel Hill Bulldog playoff game with Terrence Murphy's older brother leading the way for the Chapel Hill win. But had I been watching it, I'm sure I would have enjoyed it.
You know who the Texas starting fullback was? He was their leading rusher, Winfred Tubbs.
Winfred Tubbs, Fairfield, Texas.
Yeah, Fairfield, Texas. Later got moved to linebacker and, had a nice little career in the NFL, played for the Saints. And Peter Gardere was kind of hurt that day. He'd gotten hurt against Baylor, I think, the week before. And so Donovan Forbes was the Texas quarterback. And he just had a wonderful day. He was like 7 of 21 for like 89 yards. It was the Texas A&M defense just shut him down. And that was a great Texas defense. You remember that D-line, Shane Dronette, Hatton, Jeter. It was one of the better defensive lines. Stanley Richard, the sheriff, was in the secondary.
That was an East Texas kid, yeah.
But A&M took it to him and kind of jump-started that whole R.C. Slocum era, which was terrific.
Yeah, R.C. had a lot of success against the Longhorns.
Yeah, he did. Kurt, I'm looking through some of these names, and I'm just remembering some really good times. You mentioned Lance Pavlis, but Richmond Webb was on that team. Darren Lewis, who passed away recently, was on that team. Terry Price, obviously our beloved former defensive coach. So, a lot of big names that fans today still remember.
Big names. And that was kind of – and there are similarities. You mentioned, David, Mike Elko starting out. They're going back to the defensive roots a little bit, hired a defensive coordinator. And, I'm not sure that's a bad thing. I know everybody wants to score points and offense and all that. But you look at Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, the two best coaches, in college football the last, 10, 20 years, and both defensive coordinators. So that kind of bodes well for the Aggies, I think. But, yeah, that was back when the Wrecking Crew really was the Wrecking Crew, wasn't it?
It was, and it may be again.
Maybe soon, right? This year?
Well, that's what we're thinking. Now the wrecking crews look different. I don't know that you go out and hold teams scoreless, and at the end of the season, your average giving up 10, 11 points a game. I think now if you're averaging giving up 15 to 20 points a game, that would be wrecking crew status. And I think A&M may have the potential.
You
for
give
that.
up that few points, you're going to win a lot of games in college football in this day and age, and that's what Elko's going to bring his brand.
So do you buy the Elko era? Do you think it's going to be what we all think? Maybe this year could be the beginning of something special?
I think it could be. The Aggies have just been begging for stability, and getting Mike Elko back, a guy that spent 4 years there as Jimbo's defensive coordinator. Our Brent Zwerneman wrote this today about how they were 34-14 when Elko's with Jimbo at A&M, and 12-13 since. So obviously, I don't know if he was the missing link at all, but because they still played pretty good defense. But I think they got a lot of elements to really jumpstart this whole program again.
Well, speaking of defense, Kirk, I got to ask you about that team you're covering, because last year they just weren't. I know they had a great year and everything. They were not good against the pass, but they were great against the run. Well, those two big defensive tackles are in the NFL now. So what's all this hype about Texas based on? Because quite frankly, from here, I'm not seeing it, especially on the defensive side.
Well, it's based on hype and hope, I would say, Olin. That's a legitimate question. And we're going to find out a little bit Saturday when Colorado State comes in here with their air raid offense. Hal Mummy's, I think his nephew is the offensive coordinator there at Colorado State for Jay Norvell. They got a really good quarterback who threw almost as many yards, 3,400 yards, almost as many as Quinn Ewers did last year. But he threw 22 touchdowns. They got this receiver, Torrey Horton, a Nevada transfer. He was a 1,000-yard receiver last year for them and scored 8 touchdowns. But, Olin and David, it was kind of a combination last year. They didn't have a good pass rush. And we all know, that works in sync with the defensive backfield. And so they didn't have anybody that had more than 5.5 sacks. So they have rebuilt that defensive line. Alfred Collins, a kid from Bastrop, who's kind of been a bust so far. He's a senior now. He and Vernon Broughton are supposed to take the place of Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat, but they haven't done it yet. So they're going to try to do it with numbers more than maybe superstars like those two who went in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. And they got a Clemson safety that transferred, Janae Barron, their nickelback, may start at cornerback on Saturday. So they feel like they've improved there, but until they do it, it's going to be a question mark, right? It's a legitimate question.
We have the questions here, so yes.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk, I read this, and I don't know if there's anything to it or not, but there was a players-only meeting after a practice. Was it a sloppy practice? Are there some things internally happening? Give us the tidbits. What's the tea?
No, they only have great practices, David. That's one of my bugaboo with coaches. I had a great practice today, a lot of energy. I kind of like the old days, or bring back Mike Leach, or, they're thinking about their girlfriends too much and stuff. And he really kind of called it out. And, this is year 4 for Sark, and I've yet to hear him say we had a lousy practice, and I guess they just keep that private when they do have bad practice and all. But I don't know. He kind of used it in passing to illustrate Quinn Ewers' growth a little bit, David, because he was never the guy that would call a players-only meeting, and he wasn't the leader of this team. And that's the difference with this Quinn Ewers. He's got a little more comfortable with that role. We pressed a lot of the players. They brought about 10 players on Monday, and nobody really wants to let on what all was said. And it may just been as simple, David, as a sloppy practice, or just kind of need to get their head straight, or maybe something off the field at all. But it hadn't leaked out yet, and it didn't sound like it was going to be anything major. But it was. I do think we're going to see a different Quinn Ewers this year, a better leader.
Kirk, we appreciate you, sir. Thanks so much. We'll look at another game next week, my man.
And it's been fun. Great visit with you guys.
See you now. Kirk Bohls there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. You're a dear friend, and lots of great experience covering both the A&M beat, the Longhorn beat.
Yeah, but like I said, we used to have great arguments in the office, and hopefully we'll get back to those because we didn't always agree on college football and different issues. But hey, he's one of their guys. So
is he?
Yeah, you don't think about Kirk that everybody liked, that everybody hated him, and I think that made him a great columnist. Because why do people hate you? Because you tell so often because you're telling the truth.
His own people hated him, right?
Oh, everybody. Yeah. Everybody hates Kirk. That's why everybody loves him.
Because
everybody
TV
hates
show.
him. Everybody hates Kirk.
All right, we'll hit a break here. I got this thing, like when I'm ready to end a segment, I hit the table. Boom. That's like my panic button. All right, we're going to hit a break. We'll come back. I do want to get into that topic about some similarities between A&M and Notre Dame. If you have pain from arthritis, that's not good. Got bone-on-bone pain, that's not good. If you've got a lot of pain that's keeping you from doing the things that you love to do, let's fix that by calling the good people at QC Kinetics, because there are effective ways to deal with that pain. And I'm not talking about drugs or surgery. I'm talking about really creative, cool, innovative ways that include cellular therapies that get you lasting relief. And the place to go is QC Kinetics. They use cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your body's own healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. So if you're living with chronic pain from arthritis or injury, you need to know you don't have to do steroids, you don't have to do surgery, and you don't need pain pills. That's no longer your only option. So you have regenerative medicine at your disposal to treat that pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief. And again, no downtime. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your life back with regenerative, restorative cellular treatments for those achy joints. The future of medicine is here, and it's in the Brazos Valley. It's QC Kinetics. 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. It is TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour coming to a close, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations, David Eduardo Nuño, and Olin Buchanan. OB, let's pay off what we've talked about, we're going to talk about. The similarities, okay? Defensive-minded head coaches.
Yes, sir.
I think wide receiver rooms that...
There's some question.
TBD, right?
Right.
Offensive lines.
Both have portal additions that they think is going to help out.
But they don't know, right? Because they're not like these elite
one's
alpha
from
guys.
Louisiana Tech,
right.
one's from
FIU. Clemson. There's a Clemson transfer as well for them. So there's that, right? There's also the fact that O-lines are TBD, work in progress. One has got very little experience. One's got little experience together, if we believe the depth charts that we've seen of that O-line.
But
right?
did not play extremely well last year as a line. So there's question marks about both offensive lines.
So you have that. Both seem to be elite defensive lines in different ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Both have quarterbacks that played for Mike Elko and
injured,
are coming off of injuries from last year.
A lot of similarities. And I think, again, and you illustrated this well, both are programs that have not reached what fans expect and national media expect of their potential. Now, yes, Notre Dame has had a few flirts with the college football playoffs with Brian Kelly. But with the quality of their schedule...
Well, they actually got into the playoff at the expense of Texas A&M, which should have been in 2020. Yep.
But during the most recent era, right, they have not reached their potential, and they've had a much easier schedule than A&M has.
Well, yeah, and that's just not debatable. A&M plays in the SEC and was playing in the SEC West when there were divisions. Notre Dame, plays a lot of plays Navy, Stanford, and up and down USC, and a lot of ACC teams.
Yeah.
So that's why I say if it's not meant to be a knock on Notre Dame, it's just looking at things, I think, fairly. If Notre Dame had played Alabama last year, would they have won? I'd say probably not. If they had played at Ole Miss and at Tennessee, I probably would have taken Ole Miss and Tennessee. And at LSU, I'm taking LSU.
Would you have thought that they would beat it? So LSU you just said. All right, Ole Miss, you say no. So there you go. I mean, that's the A&M schedule.
And I think if A&M had played Notre Dame's schedule, they were more likely to win more of those games. So I even there, I say that, yeah, there's a lot of similarity. Now, here's the big difference that A&M has to be concerned about. Notre Dame's secondary is said to be elite. It's one of the best in the country.
And they are. They're elite.
They have been.
Elite numbers.
And A&M's secondary is rebuilt. So
but you
Notre
know what,
Dame knows what they have in the secondary, A&M doesn't.
It's interesting when I listen to national guys who, by the way, I don't expect them to know every program, every detail. But when they talk about A&M, people that I think are plugged in say, well, there's a big question about their secondary. And while there is a question about their secondary, it's not the same secondary.
Well, that's true, but it's new guys. And until, like one of the guys they're talking about making A&M better is Des Ricks. Well, Des only played a handful of games at Alabama. Mays is coming up from UAB. Now, Will Lee was good at Kansas State, and I think all those guys will help A&M be better. But you still, until they actually go out and
do it
and demonstrate it, there's going to be questions.
The beauty is, we're just a couple of days away from seeing that.
We hope we'll see it in a couple of days.
Well, from not having to say, we'll see.
Well, and I do think one of the things that A&M has going for them, obviously, is that they should have the Aggies should have a very strong pass rush, and with better athletes in the secondary, more experience in the secondary, maybe a better pass rush leads to more turnovers. Notre Dame, that's what their secondary is so good at, is creating interceptions.
You know this about me. When I let the emotion play a part of my analysis, and I do both. I try to take a step away. Emotionally, I have gone from A&M's going to crush them because of the offensive line situation on our defensive line, to, oh man, that defense, how are you going to move the ball on them? Is Connor going to be able to throw to the middle of the field? Is he going to be able to throw on the outs? There's a lot of questions that I have. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think I think it's 47.5 is the total for that one. I think it'll be under that, personally. But I think A&M has the better athletes, and they're at home, and I think that has to matter.
I think being at home matters, and like we said yesterday, Clemson, Louisville, they scored on that defense.
Yep. Thank you, Obie. Appreciate you. Yep. Loaded hour number 2. John Harris going to be joining us. Coach G is going to join us. Max Wright's going to join us. You're going to join us. Everyone's joining us. It's TexAgs Live. We are so fresh and so clean here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline, the professor, John Harris of footballtakeover.com, and of course, the Houston Texans sideline reporter, TV star, and good friend, Johnny, good morning, my friend. How are you? Looks like we just lost Johnny. We just had him. Looks like he's gone. Did he exit the show? All right, we'll try to get him. Let's try to get him here in a second. Let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Caitlin Torn has got some text messages for us.
Yes, I do. So, first of all, I think we just need to clear the air that you are not wearing an OU polo.
No.
Are you, David?
No. So this is a TexAgs polo. Okay. I think the coloring is a little bit off. Yes, but I like the shirt. It's not as maroon as I would like, but I like it. Is that okay?
Yeah, love it. Maroon. Well, we have a text from Edward.
I don't think you love it. I don't think your response to me speaks like you love it.
I do. I think it was sweet that you and Obi were matching today.
But his was a little darker shade.
A little darker. Okay. Anyways, so we got a text from Edward in Austin saying, per NCAA.com, the average ranking of FBS offenses that Notre Dame faced last season was 75th. The best offense was USC 10th. They allowed 20 points. Worst offense was Navy, 123rd, allowed 3 points. The FCS team, Tennessee State, 97th, allowed 3 points. And Duke, Riley Leonard, 94th, allowed 14 points before the injury.
All right. Let's move on.
Moving on. We're a little slow this morning in the text. But we do have some basketball preseason bracketologies for the 2025 NCAA
Tell me what seed
tournament.
we're on. Just tell me that.
Do you want to guess?
I feel like I yell in the studio.
It's louder in here.
But I feel like I'm matching the loudness.
I think you're just projecting your voice.
Okay.
Do you have a guess where A&M is ranked?
Ranked or what seed they'll be?
Seed. What seed?
They're going to be a 5 seed.
You're right. 5, having us play 12 Princeton, with Alabama at number 1 and Iowa State at number 2.
Interesting. Okay. Look, it's so early. I don't know. Here's one thing I'll say about basketball. We're going to get back to football here in a moment. Here's one thing I can absolutely say about basketball. It's a long season. We know that. But let's see what they look like after the non-conference. And if they look really good after the non-conference, which I expect them to look better than they looked last year, if they look pretty good in the non-conference schedule, then the SEC is going to be a grind, as it always is. But there's no reason they shouldn't be one of the 4 best teams in the SEC, in my opinion, and hopefully compete for that top spot. That's just my desire for it. I'm going to continue looking at this matchup with Notre Dame as we wait for John Harris, and just some of the things that I think are important. Look, they always talk about the Notre Dame running game, and I know we've got some Notre Dame fans and in the chat right now, and I am very interested in seeing what they can do from a ground game perspective. But their running game is going to be different. A&M was excellent at stopping the run last year. Notre Dame is excellent at stopping the run as well, by the way. But when it comes to the A&M side of things, I don't know if that's because, partially I think it was that they were good at stopping the run. That has a part to do with it. The other part, though, is teams knew that they could pass on Texas A&M, right? That was part of the equation. You knew you could pass on A&M, so you didn't have to run on them. From a Notre Dame perspective, though, they have a different backfield. And I know they're very high on Jeremiah Love. I know that about them. But will Jeremiah Love be able to continue doing what he did last year? The running game for Notre Dame, though, what Notre Dame was able to do last year. The running game for Notre Dame, though, becomes a bigger storyline when you think about Riley Leonard, because Riley Leonard can and will pass. Let's go now back to the Boss Firearms Hotline. I think we have John Harris now, and we can kind of talk about that. John, you there?
Yes, David. Sorry about that. I couldn't hear you on the Zoom at all. I could see you, and I was waving at you, but I couldn't hear you, so I apologize for that. But, yes, how are you doing? What's going on? Is there anything happening in College Station this week or what?
Well, you kind of glanced. Did you see the new studio? That's kind of a big deal.
Oh, I did. I was kind of going in and out. I was kind of involved in my own business trying to get linked up, so I did not, man. New studio, that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Very nice.
We're pumped about it. Yeah, big game. So I was kind of talking about, and there's different layers I want to go with this, Johnny, but I was talking about the running game. That's something that Notre Dame does so well. That's something that A&M under the previous regime, at least last season, was very good at stopping it. Do you think Jeremiah Love and that makeshift, and I'm calling it makeshift until I see what they can do because there are 6 starts between that offensive line, do you think Notre Dame will be able to establish the run against an A&M defense that was really good at stopping it with a different front?
No. I mean, pretty much as simple as that, David. No. They've got, a true freshman at left tackle. I just saw a video of him, showing like his tattoos or whatever, and I'm like, good Lord. Nick Scouart is going to absolutely own him. And your first start in Kyle Field is probably the toughest place you could start. So I think you got a couple things that I think work in A&M's favor. First of all, they're very good against the run last year. Now, obviously, we know all about the ins and the outs of the defensive line, but I think what they still have is, and then you throw Nick into it, is one of the best fronts in the country. So now you're starting 2 different tackles. You've got a quarterback who is new. So even with guys that played last year, now you've got a new cadence, a new sound, and you're playing in Kyle Field. I mean, if I'm, and I know I don't need to gas up the Aggies at all, but if I'm in that stadium wearing maroon, I am screaming, yelling every time they have the ball as much as I possibly can. I will rest when Connor and the offense take over. Because the more difficult you make it on them, like that freshman or any freshman for A&M or for Notre Dame are going to be walking into an environment that pales in comparison to anywhere else. And I think they've got to use that to their advantage. So I think what ends up happening is Notre Dame's going to get smart, right? Okay, it's loud, so let's go silent count. You're going to go silent count with a couple of inexperienced tackles with those dudes rushing or playing the edge on you? Forget about it. That's the advantage that A&M, Mike Elko, and the Aggies have really got to utilize. They've got to utilize that crowd. So let's go to the offensive side, and I'll give you why I think it's all tied in. What happens if A&M does something offensively early, big play, 75-yard touchdown, and just completely lights that place up? A&M will win that by 2 touchdowns because they'll get the crowd so into it that once Notre Dame takes over on offense, now all of a sudden they're behind 7-0. Now they're chasing. Now the run game of Riley Leonard, which I question how much they're going to want to run Riley Leonard. I think it's going to be Jeremiah Love and a little bit more traditional run game. And I think that will play into the hands of the Aggies. I think A&M, I think Notre Dame will try to run the football because that's what they're going to want to do. And I do think they'll scheme up some runs for Riley Leonard, so it isn't as if you can completely forget about him, and you have to plan for it. But I think Notre Dame, wanting to have a great year this year, knows Riley Leonard's got to play 12 games. And if he's carrying it 15, 18 times like he did against Clemson, against this defense, the same thing is going to happen that happened at Duke. He's going to be broken in half by the 5th or 6th game, and that gets Notre Dame nowhere. So I think they won't run Riley Leonard as much as maybe people think. I do think it will be Jeremiah Love. I do think there's a freshman whose name escapes me at the top of my head, where I do think they'll go with more of that. They'll go with more short stuff. They may go on, the silent count and try and catch A&M sleeping with quick snaps and things like that. I think they might try and trick themselves into moving the football. But once it gets into a let's swap paint, pass run game, I think A&M's front 7, front 6, depending on how much nickel they'll end up playing, I think ends up working in A&M's favor in a big, big way. And I think that's where A&M's 12th man comes into play and becomes that 12th defender and really makes life miserable for Notre Dame and Riley Leonard in particular.
The freshman running back you were talking about is Anais Williams. He's definitely had a good camp from what all reports. Their backup running back, Jadarian Price, is a junior. A couple of names on the wide receivers. So we started off the show today talking about some of the similarities, and I think wide receiver is a place that Notre Dame had to get better. They went into the portal. They feel they got better. Bo Collins is there now. They've got Jaden Greathouse. They've got Jordan Faison. They got Chris Mitchell, who came from FIU. Can those receivers beat you at Kyle Field?
Yeah, I do. I do think the receivers do have some talent. Now, Bo Collins is going to be that guy they throw to, 12 to 14 times. He's kind of like Brand Presley from Oklahoma State. He's going to run a lot of slot routes, underneath stuff. I think that's the guy that Riley Leonard will look to try and just get something going. He's that slot receiver that really, I think that's where he's best, to be honest. I think they'll trust him, even though it's his first year there after being at Clemson. I think, that's where they'll go. When they want to open it up, it's Greathouse. And obviously being from Texas, he's going to want to come back and do some great things. But that is going to rely on Riley Leonard having time to be able to throw the ball down the field. That's why I think Collins could end up being a guy they utilize. And they could also utilize, and I think this is coming, I think they'll utilize Love and the running backs in the screen game and try and catch A&M too aggressive up the field and see if those screens can't get them, caught up. And look, I don't want to say it's an easy play for a quarterback, but it's a, easy situation for Riley Leonard to just kind of, hey, come chase me, and then boom, flip it over to a running back and let the running back. Jeremiah Love is very good out of space. And so I think they'll try and get Love in the receiving game that way. I think the receivers are good, but I don't look over there and go, oh, that's Malik Neighbors. Oh, that's Brian Thomas Jr. No, that's not what A&M's facing. But I do think it's a solid group with a kind of controlled possession receiver in Collins and then a true deep threat in Greathouse and then backs out of the backfield that could do some stuff in the screen game. So I think once you put that all together, Notre Dame will have a decent offense down the road. But I think A&M's front, the crowd, the noise, the inexperience at those key spots, I think are going to play against Notre Dame in a big, big way.
Talking to John Harris on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Johnny, let's talk a little bit about A&M's offense against Notre Dame's defense. We know about that elite secondary. We know about the defensive line. How does A&M move the ball against a very good Notre Dame defense?
Well, I think in some sense there's an equal parts attack, but also, hey, take what they give you. Because they're not going to be able to stop everything. Now, I think Notre Dame might have some issues at linebacker. They lost both their starters, Maris Bufau and J.D. Bertrand from last year. So here's the other thing, too. And you're communicating with the coach comm system for the first time. And that, again, for Riley Leonard is going to be a problem because he isn't going to hear jack squat. But Notre Dame's also going to have to do that as well on defense. Now, obviously, you want the crowd to be, lesser, but they're going to have to do that. And the guys communicating with them are guys that don't have a ton of experience. And so I think that could play into A&M's hands as well. Now, the other thing is Howard Krause hasn't played a ton in this training camp, from what I've read. And that can make him fresh. That can also make him not conditioned. And those things can, it depends on how you look at it. And he can be a problem. Riley Mills can be a problem. Now, David, I don't think Notre Dame's edge guys are great. I didn't think they were great last year. But I thought they were good with Mills and with Cross. I thought they were good up the middle with the two linebackers. And the secondary is really, really good. Benjamin Morrison is, to me, one of the top 10 players in the draft. He's number 2 corner. My Harris 100 behind Will Johnson Jr., which you can see at Harris 100 at footballtakeover.com. So go check it out. Subscribe today. Thank you. And my keys to the game for this one will be up there as we move closer to Saturday, working on right now, actually. So I think you can get some against that secondary, but you got to be careful playing around with Morrison. And once you're dealing with experienced secondary guys, the one thing experienced secondary guys throw at you are a bunch of disguises, and they can start baiting you into things. So Connor's got to be able to trust what he sees, and then, at some point take sometimes what they give to him. Hey, look, maybe that out route that you really want isn't there. Hey, take the check down. Get it to your backs in the check down. I do think they'll miss Reuben. But at times I don't worry about running backs all that much, especially the way A&M has run the running back situation the last few years, not having a true bell cow, but having a committee. So this would have been a good big game for Reuben because you can flip them screens, throw him the ball in the flat, let him do things out in space. And I just think that A&M's team speed offensively and defensively will be an issue for Notre Dame. So I do think that A&M is going to have it. They're going to have some trouble throwing against Morrison, Davey Watts, etc. But I do think there's enough firepower, if that's the right word to use, for A&M to kind of spread things out. Like, okay, Morrison's on this side of the field. All right, let's not be, get all cocky like, he ain't that good. Let's go challenge him. All right, you're going to pay for being stupid. But if you say, all right, Morrison's over here, let's try and use looks where Morrison will line up on one side, but we know we've got something on the other side. Let's just not test it, and let's stay away from that dude because he's a stud. There might be sometimes you have to. But if you can get away with it going away from him, that's fine. Get him on one side, play the other. That's good. Then you stay away from him. Then I think you have advantages against the rest of the secondary for Notre Dame. They're losing Cam Hart at corner. He was a really good complementary piece to Benjamin Morrison. So I would challenge that side of the field until they prove to me, okay, that side's pretty good. Now let's see if we can use the full field, even if we have to go after Morrison. But I don't think it'll be completely easy for A&M to move the football, but I don't think it's going to be you're not facing the 85 Bears. You're not facing the 2000 Ravens. You're going to have some time to throw, and I think you'll be able to run the ball selectively and at times when you need to. But I think as long as Connor takes care of the football, doesn't throw interceptions, gets a couple of big, deep shots early, I think A&M's offense can get what it wants as the game rolls on.
How many points are scored in this game, Johnny? Is it a close, low-scoring game? Is it in the 20s, in the 30s, in the teens?
I think it feels kind of like 23-19, kind of one of those games.
Yeah.
Because, look, these fronts are really, really good on defense, both of them. And I think it overall is going to be really tough. I do think that A&M can get up over the top and get one. And I think that could end up being the difference. And that just backs up the secondary a little bit. That might open up just a little bit of a crack for them to run the ball a little bit better. But it feels 23-19, 24, 24-20, something like that. I haven't even looked at the over-under yet. So I'm sure it's probably about that. But I just think both sides have got some athletes that can make some plays, but these damn defensive fronts are so good. I think it's going to be really tough to kind of break this into a 41-38 kind of game. Yeah, total 46.5. I think it's going to be hard-pressed to get over that in the first game with these two defenses on both sides.
Johnny, last thing for you. I have not watched the Connor Stallions documentary on Netflix. I am going to watch it at some point, hopefully this week, but I got a game to worry about. But I saw a headline about it, and then I saw some stats after it. He says that he never received signals through in-person scouting of opposing games that he went to. And then I saw a tweet that followed that up. Jim Harbaugh's record was 49-26 before Stallions joined the program, and 40-3 after. So I give you that information. Take it and do whatever you want with it.
I think that Connor Stallions is an opportunistic young dude who was looking to find his way in coaching, doing it a way that he could make himself valuable to the Michigan staff. And he was looking for every edge. Now, him saying, what did he say? I never got it from, being in person or whatever. Then why go? Then why send people? Why do that? Why open yourself up to that? Then you're an absolute moron. I don't believe that. I think there was a reason that he was going to games. There was a reason he was sending people to games. That was the fact that they were getting something out of it. Now, I say that in that I've gone to games as an opposing coach, and I've sat there and I've watched the sidelines, seeing whether I and my fellow coaches could pick signal, whether we could do that. But we never filmed it. That was the whole key. He filmed it. That's different. And sign stealing, whatever you want to call it, happens in all walks of life. The Astros got in trouble because they were stealing signs, again, using video. That you cannot do. But if the guy at second base can look in at the catcher signals and he can see them and somehow signal to the hitter, more power to him. And it's like that in football, too. If you pick those signals during a game, great. Then the other team's got to do something. I remember in 2013, I remember saying to a coach in college football, they were here for the Bear Bryant Awards, and something came up about Auburn. And they're like, yeah, Auburn won a bunch of games because they were stealing signals. I'm like, well, they were doing it during a game. That's on you, coach, if you didn't figure it out, the opposing coach. So it's happened forever. It's the videoing of it and then taking it back. That's why Belichick and the Patriots got in trouble. That's why Connor Stallions got in trouble. That's why the Astros got in trouble. As soon as you put video to it, that's the problem. But if you're picking signals during the game, man, that's part of it. But Connor Stallions, to me, is the guy that I don't know that I would want in the world of coaching, because he's always going to be looking for the next thing to get an edge. I mean, trust your coaching. You know, trust how you've gotten your players ready. Trust your preparation. Trust what you can get legally and apply to the game. Do I think that Michigan used it? Hell yeah, they did. Absolutely, they did. Was it the driver of 40-3? Hard to say. I don't know. I know they used it, and they probably used it against Ohio State. And I'll tell you this, it's a question I'm never asking our quarterback, because he did not like that question when he got it this past summer or last summer, when he got that when the Connor Stallion stuff broke, I think in the fall or whatever. So, yeah, I think they used it. I think they should be punished for it. I think it's kind of ridiculous. But I haven't seen it either, David, so I'm curious. But I have seen some of the quotes. I saw that one, and I literally spit water out as I was drinking. I thought, I went, this guy, good Lord. Yeah. And he's going to try and sell you river property in the city of Houston. I mean, that is just, it's not there. So, whatever. I mean, coaches are always looking for an edge. To me, whether he's a coach is kind of borderline as it is. So, yeah, I've got it a little busy lately, so I haven't had a chance to watch it, but it'll happen before this weekend. And I got a feeling, though, I'll be shaking my head as I watch this. That he's basically FOS.
Johnny, got to hit a break, man. Thank you so much for always for coming on the show, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, brother. See you, man. Bye.
See you, man. John Harris there on the Boss Farms hotline. I think Coach G is waiting for us, so we're a little late for that. I apologize to Coach G. A moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. They have a decent selection of commercial vehicles, service body trucks, flatbed trucks, several medium-duty trucks for those heavier jobs, and it's a place to go when you're looking for a vehicle. And there's many reasons. You get the good pricing, you get the great trade-in value, you get the great customer service. And that customer service includes complimentary pickup and delivery for those service customers. You get free oil changes for life as long as you own that Caldwell Country Chevrolet vehicle. If that's not a reason to buy a car from there. And also good people, right? You like to deal with good people. I like to deal with good people. They're the ones to do it there in Caldwell. It is Caldwell Country Chevrolet, about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. A short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. And we are back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the hotline, the Boss Firearms Hotline. We are joined by Coach G here on the program. Coach G, good morning. How are you, sir?
Doing great, David. Doing great. Congratulations on the new set you guys have there. I had a chance to peek in on it last week, and it's big time. You guys really stepping up.
Yeah, man, we love it. We can't wait to have you here and host you and do a segment with you soon. Let's just talk about this past weekend and, well, actually the past 7 days. Interesting week, a game where you struggled and then a game where you found your groove again. Just kind of talk about the last 7 days.
Well, started out with the game at home against Denver, where we did a little bit of everything except put the ball in the back of the net more times than the other team. We set ourselves up with a lot of great chances to score, and we missed a couple pretty easy chances. They scored 3 goals that were really difficult and beat us on the break, and the last one on a really good counterattack after getting a good tackle on Ali Lowry in the penalty area. Good tackle by them. Then they turn around and go 75 yards on a counterattack and score to go up 3-2. And then we had a lot of other chances and missed several. Hit the crossbar a couple times, and we don't come back. So a lot of looking at ourselves in it. When you get 19 shots on goal and you miss 12 of them, that was one of the things we looked at. We looked at the way that we didn't defend well enough in the middle of the field, and just kind of a lot of soul searching because it's early in the season. It's a tough evaluation to look at. Denver was a good team, so what can we do to be better? So that was the biggest thing: is what can we do from Wednesday to Saturday to get there, because we knew we were going to have a big attendance on Saturday. What can we do to give the new freshman class coming in a good first impression of the program? And I was pleased with what the staff did to kind of turn things around. I was pleased with what the players did because we were playing against a team that came in undefeated. And in the first half we go up 3-0 on 3 big time goals. Mia Pante with just an unbelievable blast from about between 29 and 32 yards, comes on the dribble, cuts to her right, and then just hits a laser beam that it might still be rising right now as it's just cutting above the goalkeeper, just under the crossbar. Then about a few minutes later, we get a free kick when City Becerra is taken down just outside the penalty area. They set up a wall to try to stop it, and she's able to bend it around the wall and caroms it off the far post, just under the crossbar and in. And then just before halftime, we make a substitution. Leah Pirro comes in, and with her first touch of the ball in the game, sends the corner kick in, and Margot Matula, our sophomore defender, gets her head on it and scores her first goal of her career. So on the header with the corner kick. So up 3-0, and then the second half we just kind of manage the game and cruise and finish off the shutout for our freshman goalkeeper Sydney Fuller. So all in all, a total switch around as far as what we were able to do to take a disappointing performance on Wednesday that we should have won to a pretty convincing result on Saturday, and now we're set up to play a big game this Friday on the road up in Waco.
Well, I was going to say, you warned us that both those opponents were going to be really good. I think Denver played North Carolina super tight, so it was going to be a tough game anyway. Now looking ahead to Baylor and just how difficult of a task that could be.
Well, same thing. Baylor comes in; they're 3-1. Their only loss was a tough 1-0 loss on the road to Mississippi State, which is a tough place to go. Starkville's a really hard place to go. So they're coming back from winning a tournament in Hawaii. They're fresh. They'll be super motivated to play against the Aggies. They always are. And that's always been a huge rivalry match. So, any Derby match, you can almost throw out a lot of the other things because the intangibles go so high when you talk about familiarity of the players knowing each other growing up. You talk about just the rivalry of the two schools that you don't see each other that much. So when you do play, there's a little bit more on edge that happens with the game. They're a team that plays. They're a team that puts the ball down on the ground. They set up chances. They're very good on restart situations, on free kicks. They've scored a lot of times in corner kick situations and in free kicks because of some of their artists that they have and the ability to put the ball in dangerous positions. They haven't given up goals this year, so they've got a bit of a lockdown defense. So it's going to be a big challenge. When we played them last year, it was a 1-1 tie here at Ellis. So I think we're gonna have to go up there and play as well as we did on the road when we went to Lamar early in the season to get a result. And it's an 8:00 kickoff, so just like the game on Saturday, hopefully that'll be a little bit cooler and make it a little bit better for being able to maintain a lot of pressure on the ball for us where we want to play in the Texas heat.
Coach G, we appreciate your time. Hope to have you in studio soon, and good luck this week.
Appreciate it. Next game for us will be Thursday against TCU. Next Thursday against TCU, which is a huge game. So wish everybody well this week and beat the hell out of Notre Dame for everyone going to Kyle Field this weekend. Thanks, David.
Thank you, sir. Coach G there on the Boss Firearms Hotline, one of my favorite people in the world. All right, we'll hit a break here. We will come back with Max Wright. But right now, let's talk a little duck camp. One thing I can guarantee you about duck camp, their maroon looks like maroon, all right? I know that you guys are like, what's up with David's maroon? I've seen like 9 messages. I get it. It's not the first time I've worn this one. It's, sometimes your wash kind of takes away the color and you get yada, yada, yada. Duck camp, don't worry about it. The quality there is fantastic. Comfortable clothing, right? The clothes fit you great. I need to wear duck camp this week. So I am known for my mediums, apparently. But duck camps, they don't fit too tight. They don't fit too loose. They fit comfortably. You're going to love the way they fit. And they are super comfortable, not your run-of-the-mill baggy stuff. These things look really good. And their gear does range from sun protection line shirts to technical hunting, fishing apparel, to the Mallard Game Series hats. You're going to love these, and you're probably going to see them all over the stadium at Kyle Field over the weekend. You're going to see them all over the place. They've been tested in the backcountry of Alaska to Dove Fields in Texas, and also keep you comfortable and cool for those scorcher game days. And I think you guys know I'm going hunting soon with my guy Steve Nagley and Porter Gardner as well, right? We're going to go. I'm name dropping because I like people. And we're going to go, and I'm going to be in my duck camp gear. Check out the website, duckcamp.com. They're made for people that live for the moments out there, where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, and football to watch. It's duck camp at duckcamp.com. We're back on TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Really excited about our next guest. Our next guest, I mean, he was just here, I feel like 3 days ago. But he's always around town, played at A&M for a long time. And I believe he is the newest contributor to TexAgs. He's going to be writing. He's going to be doing a weekly hit with me on the show. Max Wright on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Max, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. How you doing?
Buddy, you look like an adult now. Like, you've always looked like an adult, but you've got like an office. You got this is like a real Zoom meeting. You're looking good.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Stepping into a different time of life, but man, it's exciting.
So catch us up. What are you doing? I mean, are there still aspirations to play in the NFL? Are you trying to get your business side covered and maybe football as well? What's the latest with you?
So yes, trying to get my business side covered right now. I've had the opportunity to actually get into work with Caldwell companies. Fred Caldwell was a former player. He has been a great connection for me and just an absolute awesome mentor. So I've gotten to step in and do some stuff with Caldwell companies now. I mean, I'm still chasing after the dream of playing in the NFL. I actually was flown out to Seattle last weekend to have a workout with the Seattle Seahawks. And it went great. They ended up going a different direction for the week and then ended up cutting those guys. So it was a temporary kind of move for them. But, I mean, I feel like I'm still in a position to where if a team called me and wanted to bring me in, I'd be fully ready. But, I'm blessed to have the options that I do to where, if football is something that doesn't work out, I'm going to be really excited to step into doing stuff with land development and real estate. I mean, I've been bouncing back from the injury back this spring that I had. And yeah, it's been good.
Well, and also insider for us, right? Because I know you're going to spill all the tea. All the guys still call you, tell you everything happening. So I'm kind of kidding. But what are you hearing? Tell me about what your former teammates and your friends are telling you.
So, man, I talked to a few guys this week, and all the feedback I've been getting has been really exciting. For the most part, it's structured completely differently than what I was in there for. Having morning practices now and almost taking more of an NFL approach to things where you're not out in the field for as long as maybe you were with Coach Fisher. But when you're out there, it's efficient. There's not a lot of time being wasted. The things that we're doing are fast-paced, energetic. I mean, guys are super excited about it. It is, from what I've gotten, it feels like guys are more ready to play under their first year with Coach Elko than maybe some guys were last year after being in the system with Coach Fisher for a while. Coach Elko, I had the privilege to get to play under him as a defensive player my first 2 years at A&M, and he's somebody who emphasizes discipline. I think that's something that our A&M team needs, and that's what takes guys and takes teams to the next level in the SEC. I mean, all the stuff that I've been getting from guys is that they're excited. They're excited to play for this staff. They're excited to play together as a team, as a family. It seems like all the feedback I've been getting has been authentic and genuinely excited about what this year could be.
All right, so I know you know the tight end room very well. So how good can that tight end room be? There's some new faces. There's some guys coming back from injury, and Donovan Green. You got Theo developing. So kind of just give me your thoughts on that room itself.
I think it's going to be the deepest that it's been in years. I mean, Trey Watson is unbelievable. The guy's a really, really good talent. He's somebody who can spread out wide and isolate him one-on-one against safeties, against linebackers. He's going to get open. I think that adding this depth of tight ends to the depth that we have in the receiver room as well is going to make us really dangerous in the receiving game. I think that Shane Calhoun, the guy from ECU, is a great add. He's a physical player who I think is going to be a great H-back, kind of the role that I filled during my time at A&M. The guy's physical, can block. I think Theo is stepping up to where he's finally, developing into the monster that he is. He's got all the size and all the intangibles. And he's a great kid, man. That dude, he works so hard and has a willingness to play and put on the line for the guys around him. And then Donovan obviously coming back from his injury and stuff. I mean, if you can have a 4-group tight end rotation that genuinely has SEC experience and playing experience, and all the talent in the world to go out and be dominant, you could have a super dangerous room that could be out there with 3 tight end sets and not have to worry about any of those guys with their on-field abilities. I mean, I also love the coach that they brought in this year. The guy's a great guy. I had a chance to sit down with him and talk about his plan for the room and what he was going to do. And it seems like we're going to have a genuine tight end rotation this year that's going to get guys a lot of opportunities and going to be able to spread out kind of the love between the tight end group. So I'm excited about that room. Like, really excited.
Max Wright with us here on TexAgs Live. Max, let's talk a little bit about Connor in a different way. So people talk about his potential. People talk about his swag. You've been in the huddle with him. You've seen him. Like, what is something about Connor that we maybe don't know of why so many people in that locker room trust him and believe in him?
Connor's a guy who gives off kind of that nonchalant vibe, like, hey, no, it's just another day in the office for me. But he's someone who, when you're in the huddle with him, you feel the intensity that he brings and you know, the demanding of excellence that he brings in that huddle. You know, he pushes the guys around him to be the best versions of himself. I think that's the fun thing is, you know, everyone kind of looks at Connor. He is kind of this like swaggy, kind of laid back guy, but man, whenever he steps on the field, he means business. And I think that's a testament to his character and to what, you know, the work that he puts into the game. He demands excellence from the guys around him. I mean, he's a gamer, man. He on the field is so intense and you know, is willing to run through a wall for the guys around him and lets people know that. And he just motivates you as a teammate to go that extra inch to try and be successful. I mean, if you're wanting to know things about him that maybe everybody doesn't know, I mean, the guy he's hilarious. He's funny. He'll crack a joke in a huddle every now and then to kind of lighten the mood. But then he'll get right back into being super intense. I mean, he's a gamer. And I think this year, especially with the weapons that he has around him, he's going to have a chance to, you know, put out what we as Aggies already know is, you know, he's super talented and has all this stuff, all these weapons in his arsenal. But I think that this year he's going to get a chance to show the country and the nation, you know, why we're so excited about Connor Wigner. So,
Max, it's an unfair question, and you don't have to give me names or anything, but is it possible that there's addition by subtraction on this roster? Like we've talked about, you were in the locker room. So if anybody knows, probably all good dudes, but maybe a different environment could be a good thing for some of these guys.
Yeah, yes, sir. I think that, you know, I won't say any names, and obviously, you know, I love all my teammates that I played with. I've been super, you know, blessed to have those guys as teammates. But I do think that Coach Elko brings in a level of discipline and brings in a level of camaraderie that, you know, demands excellence and demands, you know, guys to carry themselves in a certain way. That was one of the things whenever you played for Coach Elko on defenses, he didn't put up with, you know, with laziness, with being lackadaisical, with not being a professional about how you go about this. He's real and he's going to conduct it in the way that an NFL team will, where he'll let you know whenever he's not going to play you because of the way that you're acting, and he will play guys who are better for, you know, better fits for the locker room, which he said he's going to pick, you know, locker room, family type guys over guys who may be draining from that. So I mean, yeah, I won't say that you know, maybe getting certain guys out of there is super good for the team. That's not what I'm going to say. But I do think that the way that Elko is conducting this locker room and, you know, fostering these guys together is definitely going to be beneficial in comparison to maybe what we've had in the past few years.
Max, great stuff, man. I'm looking forward to seeing your momentum shifts here after the game. I know you'll be watching intently, man. Thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Max right there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Good stuff. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with a final segment here in the 9 o'clock hour. Come back 10 o'clock with Jason Howell, and we'll have Peter Burns, PB. I heard him this morning talking about Connor himself, so we'll chat a little bit about that. Right now, Milliken Reserve Time. Farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got farms, they got wide open spaces with a mission to build a healthy community around nature. They've got 2,600 acres of open space. They've got 30 miles of trails. They've got homes, and they want to connect families to nature and to each other. They have an extensive network of trails throughout a wooded landscape that includes walking and equestrian paths, creeks, ponds, gathering areas, and a place for families to cherish generation after generation. If you haven't been, I highly recommend when you're coming to a game here in College Station, if you're not already living in the community, come by and check out Milliken Reserve. You can drive down 6 or Wellborn, you'll see it. It's a beautiful place. Just go hang out there. You don't even have to buy a house there. They can just go and do some of the cool activities that they have there, like hiking, biking, canoeing, kayaking, the equestrian trails, the evening yoga, the summer camps, the music festivals, the farmer markets, and the farm tours. The website is millikenreserve.com. That is millikenreserve.com. Welcome back into TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Got to do that Kermit the Frog voice there. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Caitlin Torn, people are texting, and there's a little bit of Nick Saban out there.
Yeah, so Saban is already getting some rave reviews as he begins his media career at ESPN. He, when asked to pick his SEC championship, he put Georgia and Texas to face off. And when he was asked about it later, he referred to it as reverse rat poisoning for Alabama, trying to use a little reverse psychology.
So he's actively rooting for Alabama as the analyst for ESPN Game Day.
Yes.
Which, by the way, I don't have a problem with. Whatever. Peter Burns roots for LSU. If Lucci owns TexAgs, but if one day I worked I'm going to root for A&M. So I don't have a problem with it. But I think it's interesting that he actually admits it so quickly into his new gig.
Yeah, he said it was a motivating factor for them not to get picked because he hated getting picked first or second because you really don't know how that's going to affect your team psychologically. I think it's a fair point.
But look, they're just predictions at the end of the day. And while when you police your own room, I understand, like, guys, don't read into this. We haven't proven jack. Like, Georgia is they have obviously some returning, but there's a lot of unknowns with Georgia and a very difficult schedule. Texas, they have some unknowns as well. And, you know, they have, even though I don't want to even get into their schedule, but they've got to prove it. I think they're one of the top talented teams in the country, no doubt, but can they do it in the SEC week to week? Oklahoma's about to find out real quick how tough that is. But whatever you need to do to get your team ready, I'm here for it. I think we're learning Coach Elko's way, and it seems to work. We'll see how it works on game day, but right now everything is trending in that right direction. All right, you have one more thing before we have to hit a break?
Yeah, we have Cole Thompson from SEC Unfiltered named the top 5 questions that should be answered in week 1, and we can just go through these questions really fast.
We got like 20 seconds, so give us the A&M question.
Who is Texas A&M's number 1 wide receiver?
We don't know. Noah Thomas has an opportunity to be that guy. I think in week 1, that's the one that we'll see. Maybe a freshman who plays multiple positions gets an opportunity to flex at that position at some point. We'll get into more. It's TexAgs Live. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio, the brand new Rollo Insurance Studio. Before we get to recruiting country, I want to read this. Blake on the YouTube page says, I have a coworker that's a huge Notre Dame fan. I got to work this morning and there were 4 boxes of Kleenex, 1 for each quarter. So is that like, Blake or anybody listening, are they trying to say that we're whining? What, like, why would we? Because we're going to cry after the game? We're going to cry each quarter? I'm trying to understand why we would need Kleenex. And what should we give him? Let's give him some ideas. You can text it in at 979-693-1150 if you have some ideas of what Blake can give his coworker. Nick, do you have an idea for us? I see you. No, okay. I thought you were about to talk to us. Never mind. I don't want to talk to you either, Nick. That's it. I'm done with you. You haven't spoken today for a reason. I do want to talk to Jason Howell. Recruiting Country, brought to you by Caprock Health System. Always love talking to Jason. A faster patient-centered revolution in care. 2 ERs in the Bryan College Station area. The original 24-hour ER in South College Station on William D. Fitch. And the full-service hospital with ER in Bryan on Briarcrest. Online, caprockhealthsystem.com. And with that, we talked to Jason Howell on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Jason, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, man. Looking sharp out there. I love it. Love that new studio. And it's been fun to watch it all come together for you guys.
Well, for us, I know you may be 3 hours away, but your family. Are you going to be in town this weekend?
I'm talking about the radio, the radio side of things. We're all we're all one team, but the radio, TV, all that. It's good to see it all. We
call it the studio show, okay? All right? We don't shine shoes no more, all right?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Hey, are you coming in this weekend with, was it like 5,000 recruits coming into town? What is it?
I'm not going to be actually in town, but Cade and Bronny will definitely be busy. We'll all be busy working the phones, checking in, see who's made their way to town. We've got high school football all over the state, and I've got a game on Saturday morning as well. So we're gonna be out and about and busy. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just kind of read you. I know we can't go into the whole premium subscribers. You have the list in front of you, right? But we'll just kind of throw. Go ahead.
Let me throw down some stats for you on this weekend. I'm not gonna. There's over 120 prospects that are listed. And more could be coming in throughout the course of the weekend. So definitely want to keep an eye on all that. But we've got, I want to say, 8 of the Texas top 10 in the 2026 class, 16 of the TexAgs top 20, 25 of the top 30. Pretty much anyone in the state of Texas that isn't playing a football game on Saturday is planning to be in College Station to see what that atmosphere is all about. It is going to be an absolutely monster weekend to set the table for that 2026, recruiting cycle. It's a monster weekend for the 2026 group, and you have some really big targets in that 25 class, along with most of the commitments that are currently pledged to A&M, and it's just And then there's the out-of-state talents, both in 26 and 27. You even got a few 28s in there. So 4 classes are covered. Lots of big-name prospects and several classes, and you're going to want to stay tuned to the recruiting action for sure.
So. Look, I'm just going to talk out loud as a fan of recruiting, right? You guys cover it. But in my opinion, there's going to be guys that are committed elsewhere, guys that are considering elsewhere, that this is a golden opportunity, not only just to showcase Kyle Field, which we know sells itself, right? But like the shift in what A&M is from a football school. And I don't think that necessarily means you have to win the game, although I am predicting that the Texas A&M to win the game. But I think this is a great opportunity to show those guys who are on the fence about A&M to be like, oh, this is different.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get a night game with College game day in town with a big time opponent, Notre Dame, whether they're ranked in the top 10 or not, I mean, just the history of the program alone and the history between the two teams, it's gonna attract a lot of attention. And I think this is going to be the way to kick off the season with the storylines and the ties between the two programs is going to be it provides even more drama. And it's a way to showcase Kyle Field, the 12th man, in at its finest. And that's always going to make a positive impression as far as what I've seen. I've never seen a prospect go to a big game atmosphere and leave going, yeah, I've seen better. It doesn't get better. I mean, A&M and a big game atmosphere to kick things off is always going to be top notch in college football.
Jason, am I wrong? Like, at least since I've been here, I've never seen this many recruits at one game. Like, this has got to be a record, at least since I've been here.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that many. That is a lot of prospects in town. You look back at I think Alabama weekend in 2021. That was a pretty big one. You've had the Miami weekend and a few years ago, and I think Clemson in 2018 was a pretty big weekend. So you've had some big ones, but this one is it's as big or bigger than I've ever seen. It's definitely way up there towards the top, if not at the very top.
One of the commits that's coming is a big name, Hassan Longstreet. I saw him recently on social media. He just, from a physical stature, he looks like a different kind of dude. Am I watching him? I know he's listed at 6'2", 190, but am I seeing that correctly? He seems like he's got a lot of physical tools beyond what we see on the field.
Well, yeah, and people talk about his hand size as much as anything. He has the ability to just grip it and rip it. You watch him throw from a lot of different arm angles. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the country because of his quick release and his ability to throw with accuracy and hit just about every area on the field. I don't know an area he can't hit or a throw he can't make. He seems to have all the tools and the intangible side. He's not one of these guys that is going to be out, as a cheerleader type. I'm not saying he's not a big personality, but he is. He does his thing and he leads with a quiet intensity. And when he speaks, people listen, and he means business when he's out there on the field. So he brings a lot in terms of that and just the intangibles on and off the field that I think a lot of people are gonna really like. And he's more than capable of getting in there and talking a little trash too. He's not afraid of it. It's Connor Wigman as a mentality is a pretty good one to me. It's a pretty good comparison in that. They're not always going to be the most vocal, but when something needs to be said, they know how to say it.
Jason, I want you to give us kind of a state of the recruiting of this program right now, because if you read the boards, like, oh my gosh, like we lost a couple of guys this week. It's terrible. And I understand, like, you wanted to win these dudes, right? But overall, this A&M is recruiting at a very high clip, even though they missed out on Fasusi and Jonah Williams for now.
Yes, those two losses there at the end of the month of August they hurt. You want to win those guys, and you want to be able to point to those guys as bell cows of your class. They would have definitely helped in the momentum, but you can't lose sight of what you have, and what you have are guys like Hassan Longstreet, Adonis Curry, Dejan Petaway, Tiger Ryden. You've got 5 offensive linemen committed that are all considered top, 40 to 50 Texas type players, and you've got the top interior offensive lineman committed in the state of Texas. You have recruited the state of Texas as well as you ever have at this point in the process, with 14 commitments and several in the top 20, 25 range in the state of Texas. And the state of California has been very friendly to Texas A&M. I think Hassan Longstreet has played a big role in that. You've got Noah McHale, one of the top linebackers in the country, committed. And they all seem to have really connected well. I talked to Connor Carty after his scrimmage the other day, and they talk about the brotherhood. And I know we've heard that in the past, and but there is a bond there that has solidified with these guys. Many are longtime commits, and you have you've really set the table for what can happen with success on the field. And you've got a chance to really make some moves with some of those guys that may have committed elsewhere, or like a Jerome Miles, who's a 5-star receiver out of Utah, who, guess what? He's going to be in town this weekend. And he's anxious to see his first look at Texas A&M football at Kyle Field. And that's a lot of these kids that are these commits that are going to be here this weekend. A lot of those guys haven't seen what Kyle Field, the 12th man, and all that have been. Some of them saw it in baseball season with Marco Jones and some Hassan Longstreet and those guys, but they haven't been in Kyle Field. And I have a feeling that experience is something that's only going to make that bond stronger.
Can you give us a little bit more insight into Jerome Miles and just like the quality of player that he is? Because he's somebody we've talked about, but I think people forget about him at times.
Yeah, 6'3", 220, runs a sub 4.5 40, 4.4, has a 10 300 meter. Really blew up over the course of the spring. He missed some games last fall due to I want to say it was an ankle injury, which caused him to miss most of the regular season. But he stepped up huge in the playoffs and was a big time threat receiver, a deep ball threat, guy who's got that physicality to go up and attack the ball, very explosive prospect. And there's a reason why he's attracted everybody across the country. He's averaging right now, I want to say, over 22. He may be averaging about 25 yards of reception right now and a touchdown every other time he catches the ball. So that's just through 2 games where they've played one of the top teams in Utah, in American Fork, and one of the top in the country, IMG, pulling out big wins on both of them. He was the player of the week last week against IMG, but he makes big plays in big moments. He's got the speed you look for. I don't know what I would compare him to, but just the raw numbers and the speed reminds me a lot of DK Metcalf when he was coming out of Oxford, Mississippi. So that kind of gives you a reference there, but big, athletic, deep threat who can make those plays, those long plays long and those short plays longer.
If you guys have a question for Jason, you can text it in at 979-693-1150, or you can put it on the YouTube page or on TexAgs.com's chat. So let's just say they were able to reel him in. If you combine him with Tristan Norman, how are we feeling about that wide receiver group at that point?
Yeah, with him, TK Norman, and Kelshawn Johnson, you've got 3 guys that could be on anybody's track team. That is a relay group. That's a lot of speed and athleticism, versatility. And I think TK is coming off a big weekend and a big win over the Stavia Hills to start their season. He had a 48-yard touchdown and a 2-point conversion. And they were able to pull out a double-digit win in a big opening weekend matchup there. And I am excited to see what Kelshawn Johnson does. But they're all 3 known as big play threats, capable of going the distance and taking the top off of the defense with just their speed. But Kelshawn, just a phenomenal route runner, incredibly quick, and all three of them would. That's an explosive group of wide receivers. I don't know rankings wise exactly where it would stack up. You'd have to see how it all shakes up. But those are three really good receivers that bring a lot to the table, and I would say answer the question of what you're looking for in receiver recruiting in the 2025 recruiting cycle.
Let's keep it with the 25 recruiting cycle and look at the offensive line and the guys that they've brought in, and just some names that people need to know. Tyler Thompson, Josh Moses, which we've talked about, Jonte Newman. Just talk about that group specifically, Jason.
Well, I mentioned Connor Carty, one of the top interior offensive linemen in the country and the top in the state. Offensive guard. He's been a mainstay at Prosper, which Prosper has their 5 offensive linemen. 4 of them are going to be in town this weekend. All 5 of them have Power 5. Well, all 5 of them have FBS scholarships. 4 of them have Power 5s or Power 4s, whatever you want to call it these days, and are just they pump out offensive line recruits. And Connor Carty's been a leader on that line for a couple of years now. Very athletic. You talk about Jonte Newman. That's what a guy Connor talked about. They've really connected, and they're talking about being roommates at A&M. And Jonte has been a mainstay at tackle at a strong Bridgeland program that's been known to send a guy over A&M's way for a while now. And he can play guard or tackle. You've got Marcus Garcia at Denton Ryan, one of the top programs in the state, known for their nasty edge. They play with a lot of grit, and he definitely embodies that. But he's also one of the top throwers in the state of Texas. So he brings athleticism, plays tackle at Ryan, could move inside, but he also brings some of that length that you look for at tackle. Tyler Thomas at Dickinson, another just big body athlete who has really done a good job this offseason developing and continuing to reshape his body and could be is penciled in more as a guard right now, I think, but has that tackle potential as well. And Josh Moses was the first commitment of that class, who's been looked at as a center guard type prospect as well. And you got some guys that reeled in a lot of offers very early. You beat Texas, USC. Just about every in-state program offered every single one of those guys, and as well as many top national programs. And those are some big wins that I think sometimes it gets lost. It's kind of like Tiger Ryden is a guy that I think gets kind of slept on by some of the fan base sometimes, and even across the country, because he has been committed, but he's been highly productive. He's a versatile big back, and he is coming from one of the state's top programs. He's been tested. He's been a multi-year starter, and he brings an explosion and versatility to the table that you could see him step in and make an impact right away. Not enough people are talking about him as the number 1 back in the state of Texas right now.
All right, Jason, let's hit a break here. When we come back, we'll get some questions from the audience for you. I do want to read this one. So remember earlier I said about the Kleenexes of the Notre Dame fan who put on. So we've got, I think, the winner of what that guy should do back, right? And that is give him a bunch of water to hydrate, right? Because that's what Notre Dame's going to need, a bunch of water to hydrate. Now, I am looking at the weather reports. It says it's going to be 60% humidity. That's not that high, guys. So for the record, not that high. We'll talk about more recruiting on the other side. Right now, FBS Appliance and their team of experts are here to help you with the appliances that make your house a home, and that's what they want to do. They want to make sure you get the right appliances that make your house feel like, hey, I've got everything I need covered, and they take care of you with the top brands. And they've been doing it in Texas since 1988. They are the best when it comes to doing what they do. They have an expert staff. They have the best appliances. They have trained installers to guide you through the purchase because FBS wants to be your trusted appliance store. They are the best, as I've mentioned many different times. They provide a personalized assistance drawing on their product knowledge and expertise to guide you through that selection process, whether it's understanding that appliance feature or accommodating, design preference. They have 8 showrooms across Texas. Find them online at factorybuilderstores.com. That is factorybuilderstores.com. We're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Jason Howell loves the music that we're playing on the program. By the way, it is Recruiting Country, brought to you by Caprock Health System, the Happy Man at a Funeral. Jason Howell's with us. And let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Caitlin, I know we've got some questions for Jason.
Yes, we have some questions from the YouTube. Longboy asks, is our success in California, is that CA?
Yeah, California.
Okay, just making sure. this cycle a result of a conscious effort to target what state more than we have in the past? What explains why we have been so effective out west?
Yeah, there's some of that, and we've talked about in the past a little bit of the Pac-12 kind of imploding and going. You got the Big 12 and the Big 10, both the benefactors of that, and that deterioration there, that conference, I think, really helped the Aggies get in there, the SEC footprint, and like I think there was that vulnerability as well as what A&M has to offer. That really attracted a lot of that attention. You get a guy like Hassan Longstreet that can be your bell cow, and Noah McHale, and you definitely get some eyes opened out there. So those guys, helping those efforts really helped A&M put together a strong group there from the state of California. All of them are going to be in Kyle Field for the first games, I think, over the weekend. So good deal.
What else do we have, Galen?
We have another question from McKinnon asking, is Utah the team to beat for Miles?
I don't know if I'd definitely put them out there. I'd put them up there at the very top of Ohio State. Texas A&M, I think, is in that fight, and that shows with him coming to College Station this weekend. So there's probably about 4 or 5 that you could probably switch in and out, but those are 3 contenders I'd put up there. Maybe an Auburn or maybe even an LSU, but the Utes are going to be a factor for sure, but I also expect A&M to put a good foot forward as well.
I know we got one more on the text line, Caitlin.
Yep, one more from PG Ag in King Oaks asking about a second running back.
It's a possibility. We've talked about Jamarion Morrow, who's committed to Mizzou out of Memphis, Tennessee. He's one that I've said he's committed, but keep an eye on him. I know that was a guy that Coach Trooper Taylor really had his eye on. He visited, and there were a lot of good vibes there before his commitment. And I wouldn't be surprised to see if his name reemerged, especially if A&M's able to put together a really strong offense and show well this fall. But yeah, I think it's still a possibility, but it's going to have to be the right guy. And there's also the portal there as well to keep an eye on.
Jason, I got a question from Blake on the YouTube page who asked if there's still a chance to flip a guy like Jonah Williams. And I don't want to answer him specifically about Jonah because I think that might be a different situation. But just overall, this staff is going to keep recruiting everybody. Like that's what you have to do in this business.
Yeah, and absolutely, there's a chance. I wouldn't expect anything like this weekend, but yeah, definitely keep an eye on a number of guys, especially guys who visited, guys A&M didn't pull out on at the end, like they were finalists for, guys that those are guys I would continue to keep an eye on over the course of the recruiting process. So, your Fasusis, your Jonah Williams, your Lamont Rogers, your guys like that. I would continue to watch and monitor those situations and see what happens. And I expect the lines of communication, as long as they're open, to continue.
So, Jason, give us a little bit of an update where you're going to be this weekend, what games you're going to get to check out.
Well, Thursday I'm going to be at Forrester Stadium in Dallas, Texas, watching North Forney and Ryan Gilbert take on Dallas Skyline and Bo Barnes, Texas commit. So should be a fun one. The start of the Marcus Shavers era there in North Forney. On Friday night, I'm going to be down in Waco. I'm going to be watching DJ Sanders and Belleville take on Salina in one of the top matchups of some smaller schools that should be a lot of fun at Midway High School there in Waco. And then I'll be at the Star in Frisco on Saturday, 2 p.m. North Crowley and Lancaster to see those two fight it out at the Jerry Jones High School Classic. North Crowley, obviously, John Turntime, one of the top prospects in the 2026 class. Lancaster, full of athletes. Both teams loaded with college talent. So I'll be out there checking that out and getting as well as getting updates and whatnot throughout the weekend and leading up to the Texas A&M Notre Dame game, which should be action-packed. We should have it all flowing in the lead up and afterwards. So should be a lot of fun.
Jason, I might get in trouble for asking, but are we on potential commit watch this weekend, or let's just wait and play it out?
I'd say let's wait and play it out. There may be one or two, but I wouldn't say it's imminent. But you're talking about a big game atmosphere, and we've seen that happen in the past. I want to say I remember, a game not too long ago where one of the state's best came in as A&M being an outsider and left fully committed. That was I'm thinking of Damon Demas. And that was after a loss to Clemson. So, I think there's always a possibility, especially in a big game atmosphere. But I'm not penciling in one or two guys as this is. I feel like this is going to happen this weekend. But always a potential, and there's several big prospects. DeQuan Prevo is a guy that's going to be in town who, in the past, had talked about making a decision. I know Arkansas and A&M, both big factors there. That may be something to watch. Helaman Kasuga is another one. But I wouldn't say those two are definitely on commit watch either.
Jason, great stuff as always, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Always. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Jason Howell, Recruiting Country here on TexAgs Live. All right, we'll hit a break. When we come back here on TexAgs Live, Peter Burns of the SEC Network, our weekly chat with Peter. That's coming up next. Right now, though, Heritage Films. Let's treat your business like your baby. I know you already do, right? For many, yes, you have your family, and you have your business, which is your other family, and you got your hobbies and your buddies, right? Let's tell a story about your business, right? That's what Heritage Films does. It can tell the story about how that business started, how that business really was started in the backseat of a car or a trunk, and grown into whatever it may be, right? Chance McClain makes your business the star of the movie, right? It is a character in the movie, and that's what he does when he does these documentaries. These documentaries can be about many different things. I love the fact that it can be about your grandfather, like how the family was started. It can be about your dad. It can be about your mother, the patriarch, the matriarch, whatever it may be, how your family gets together on Thanksgiving and watch the A&M-Texas game moving forward. It could be at a tailgate. Let Chance and his crew be an eye in the sky and tell these 2-hour documentaries. It takes about 8 to 10 weeks to finish, and when you have it, you're going to love it. It's a Netflix-style documentary that you're going to be like, wow, they did this for us? Yes, they did. His name is Chance McClain, and the website is Heritage Films, 713-893-8341. Again, that number, 713-893-8341. It's yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com is Heritage Films. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. That's where we join Peter Burns from the SEC Network, good friend of the show. And this is brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans. PB, I got to get you on Zoom one day so you can see this new studio, man. How you been?
Wait, you guys upgraded? I mean, what in the world? I mean, listen, I knew the Kyle Field looks different than the last time I was been there, but the TexAgs studios are starting to roll. Like, dude. All right, paint the picture of it for those who aren't watching.
I'm telling you, this is SEC Network good. This is Apple Sports good. Uh-oh. This is like network. Like I'm telling you, man, we'll tag you on some of the videos. Amazing, bro.
You know what it is now that Lucci and all those guys are letting the gray come in, and they're not spending so much money on the Just for Men, so he looks like, dapper and younger. Like that's where all that money is. And well done, man. I mean, listen, you got to put a new coat of paint on it whenever you got a brand new head coach that comes in. That's why everybody's fired up about it. And hell, I mean, I think you could argue that you guys against Notre Dame in that opener might be the most intriguing of the matchups here on Labor Day weekend.
Well, PB, I heard you this morning, and you were defending our guy Connor with your boy Doring. Look, man, I don't know what Connor's got to do. I know he's got to stay healthy, but I always remind people he's gotten hurt once in his career. But when he has played, he has had elite numbers, and that's with all the chaos around him during the Jimbo era. I love Jimbo, but there was chaos here, PB, and he put up some great numbers.
I think that's the one thing that I see in the new coaches that are coming in, whether it be, Elko down for you guys or even Kalen DeBoer, is that it's almost like a resetting of like, hey, like things, there's other factors that went in. Let's play some football. And I think, and I learned that from Elko, and I fell in love with him. I've been on this show many times, and I said it before, that I thought Jeff Traylor should have been the guy over at A&M. And then now the more and more I get an opportunity to hear about Coach Elko and talk to people close to that program and even some other coaches that knew him before go, this guy is no BS. He's going to get in here, and it's just about football and how you can develop in this program. And so I look at that, and I go, all right, if you clean up all of the old issues from, that's kind of the old headlines and kind of what it was, in the past, and just focus on football, buddy, I mean, Elko kind of reminds me like Teddy Roosevelt. Like, it's what was the saying? Like, speak softly and carry a big stick. And I'm fired up for it. And hell yeah, I went for Connor Wegman because, on SiriusXM this morning, just simply for the fact of when you saw him play, everybody immediately said, uh-oh, A&M's got a quarterback. And then, of course, like it's happened the last 3 or 4 seasons, all of a sudden he gets injured and you're starting to scrape around again.
Now, some of the issues at quarterback because of injuries were self-inflicted, right? Like there's a reason every year you went to a second and a third string and sometimes a fourth string quarterback. But find me a program in the SEC that can survive that when you get to second, third, fourth QB.
Well, I mean, ask for Alabama. If they, had Jalen Milroe break out and you would have gone to Ty Simpson or Tyler Buckner, that wouldn't have worked out. LSU, as much as I like Garrett Nussmeier, I think that they're going to fall back a little bit not having Jaden Daniels. I mean, very little times you have a quarterback, especially playing at this conference. Like if you play in another conference, maybe you can get away with it in an ACC or a Mountain West or something along those lines. But you damn sure can't do it against a miniature NFL. So, and that's what I'm hoping for the most is a healthy season. And again, I don't know. I love what we talked about this morning. Is the idea of Riley Leonard, who Elko knows a whole heck of a lot about. How cool is it for A&M to have that advantage to know who he is, what he can and cannot do at home in Kyle Field? Whew, the roof is going to be off of that place.
PB, I know you think LSU is going to take it to USC. Give me your why behind it.
Simply for the fact of again, preseason wise, you always go kind of more on vibes. And I stopped over the last couple of seasons. I stopped going into what the roster looks like versus what the coaches are telling me, and even people around like the support staff. And the support staff, especially on the defensive side of the ball, when I talk to them, I go, "What's the difference?" And they said the difference is we're just reacting and playing football now. Before it was, hey, we're going to read everything and we got to think about this, and it was almost like a checklist for LSU defensively. And it was almost like a kind of a golfer that needed to go through the 9 different swing thoughts before you actually, swing the club. Now it's just get out there. We don't care if you make a mistake, but go make a mistake at 100% as opposed to last year. They were so hesitant, and that's why they were screwed. Now, also, they had some injuries. They also had some transfers that didn't end up working out. But the coaching is the biggest difference. And while LSU's offense takes a step back, their defense is going to be remarkably better. Hell, it can't get any worse. And I'm just not sold that USC's defense got any better. I think Lincoln Riley is arguably one of the most talented play callers and offensive minds in college football, but I don't think that he could put together a well-rounded team.
What's the floor and ceiling for LSU this year? Because I look at their schedule, I don't think it's, you get past this USC game, I don't think it's that bad for LSU standards or SEC standards.
Yeah, I would be shocked. I mean, I would be absolutely floored, actually, not even shocked. Mouth agape. If they win, and they win convincingly against USC, if they're not a college football playoff team, right? I mean, I think 10-2 in this conference, potentially maybe 10-3, depending on what games it was and how everything else, or 9-3, get the bid. But I can't find three other losses on LSU's roster or LSU's schedule if they're able to beat USC. Especially, I think the game that they absolutely win, not only against USC, but I love the way that the schedule sets up for LSU against Ole Miss. That game's going to be in Baton Rouge. It's going to be a night game. And keep in mind, that's going to be the 7th week in a row that Ole Miss is going to play. And LSU is going to be coming off of a bye week. They're going to be well-rested, ready to go. That defense should be ripping. That's going to be a monstrous night down in Baton Rouge, and I think LSU wins that game.
PB, I know Jimbo's been doing the making the rounds on the media circuit. And what do you think about his future? He says he would like to come back for the right situation. Do you think we see Jimbo Fisher coaching at a Power 4 school here in the next couple of years?
So it's wild. I mean, I'm sure it's been around, but Monday morning we had him on. I was hosting ESPN Radio up in New York City, and we talked with Jimbo, and I kind of just flippantly asked him. I was like, "Hey, you got to get sick and tired of hunting and fishing, right?" And he's like, "Well, there's only so much hunting and fishing you can do." And he's like, "I've always wanted," and it was kind of a okay answer. And then I pushed him a little bit harder, and he basically had said, "Hey, I'll be looking at tape. And I'll be looking for the right opportunity." So, can he do it? Absolutely. I think Jimbo's a great coach. I think the thing with Jimbo is that he has to understand the mentality of coaching football successfully back in the early, or late 2000s or early 2010s is different than this world. And so if he's able to adjust and handle the transfer portal and handle NIL and handle what his expectations are differently this time, there's no doubt about it that he can do it. The competitive juice is there. I just don't know necessarily if it's the SEC. It might be an ACC squad that tries to get him in.
Do you think he recognizes some of his flaws and mistakes?
I don't know yet, right? Because I think everybody can say they changed. I think Jimbo, to his credit and also his downfall, sometimes is very stubborn. But I think also there are certain coaches that understand what they could have done differently. And I think Jimbo is smart enough and has a passion enough about college football to believe that, hey, I can make this adjustment and do better. I remember working with Gene Chizik when he worked with us for the SEC Network, and Chiz would tell me, he's like, it wasn't until I got fired that I understood what I would do if I had another opportunity. And he goes, and when he went back to North Carolina as defensive coordinator, he's like, I was so much better prepared because I got a year off and to kind of recalibrate. I think, with Chiz, who was a stubborn person who adapted, is no different than Jimbo Fisher, just on the offensive side of the ball going, hey, I know what I would do differently. And I think teams need that kind of energy and need that kind of juice of a coach that had a year off.
PB, last thing for you, Clemson, Georgia. Look, I think Georgia is going to be Georgia, even though they have a new face, right? They have new players that we need to get to know, but we know at the level that Kirby recruits at. But I look at their schedule, I'm like, man, that is not a kind schedule for a team that should be in the college football playoffs and will probably be in the SEC championship game. But there's a lot of battles in that schedule.
Yeah, but then that's the what we're going to see with Georgia is like what we saw with Alabama during Saban's run, is the fact of they're one of the few teams in which there's still so much depth. I think what's hurt teams in the past or in the last year or two is that you used to be able to fit kids that were talented, and they would be second and third string, and they would wait their turn. I mean, that's how Nick became dominant in the mid-2010s. I think Georgia's one of the few teams that still has that, to where Kirby doesn't recruit, he selects, and it's an honor to be on that roster right now. There's very few teams that can do that. So I think that I wouldn't say destroy, I think they suffocate Clemson offensively. Kate Klubnik is a good quarterback, but if you go back and look at his QBR rating, it was 55 last year, and that was against kind of subpar defenses. Georgia ain't no slouch defensively. I mean, they're going to be as dialed in as possible. I would be shocked. I saw the team point total was like 60.5. I don't gamble, and you're not supposed to do it unless you're in a legal state. I would love the team under of Clemson under 60.5, if I did it hypothetically, of course.
That is Peter Burns here on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Thank you, of course, to Blue Delta Jeans. PP, we appreciate you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Can't wait. Week 1's here, boys. See y'all.
See you, man. PP on the hotline. All right, we'll hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs Live, what we will... Did I say TexAgs Live? I haven't made the mistake yet, right? All right, good. Just making sure. There was a moment like, I hope I didn't go to muscle memory there. When we come back, we're going to run through some scenarios, and we'll break it all down. We've got, right now, though, it's game week, and if you're headed to the game this Saturday, the Association of Former Students wants to invite you to join them at the All-Aggie Hullabaloo. Make the Clayton W. Williams Jr. Alumni Center your game day headquarters this weekend for free drinks, courtesy of Yiling and City Orchard Cider and free Slovakic sausage. You can also do some pregame shopping at the vendor marketplace with CC Creations, The Charge Apparel, South of Kyle, and Kona Ice. There's also going to be a fun zone with games, prizes for kids. Plus, if you have questions about your Aggie ring, need to have it resized, the Aggie ring office will be open throughout the event. The All-Aggie Hullabaloo begins at 3:30 p.m. this week, and admission is completely free, $9.99. Register now. tx.ag/AAH1. That is tx.ag/AAH1. If you're driving and can't write it down, the association has the information on different threads on texags.com. Don't miss out on a great event. Register at tx.ag/AAH1. Time to end the day with Double Dave's. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggie land since 1984. They have your favorite pizza. They have your favorite world-famous pepperoni rolls, reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. We have not said hi to Nick Savage here on TexAgs Live. Nick, I have not made the mistake.
Probably happy about that, by the way.
See, why do you go straight to the negative?
Yeah, it's just because, I don't know. Wait a minute. Watch this, David. Watch this. This is going to be cool. You ready?
Yeah.
Debut of Super Source 2 on TexAgs Radio.
Sorry, Super Source.
Whoa. Oh, I said it. I said TexAgs Radio.
I didn't make the mistake once today.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
I apologize for yelling.
It's okay.
How's Jackson doing for you there to your right?
He's good.
Yep.
Really? You got nothing to say about my cool graphic? It needs work.
What is it called? The Super Source graphic?
It's just what it's called on like my end, but
okay.
I don't know.
I like the Super Source graphic.
That's cool. Here, let me see. Let me see if I got time.
Super Soaker? That was a fun game.
A game. Those are like guns.
Yeah, gun game. Yeah.
Let me show you something else I've been working on. So we're gonna do this.
Pew pew.
I think. Let's see there. Watch that. Watch this. Ready?
Three,
And
two,
bam.
Boom.
Oh, maybe not.
Our radio audience is thrilled with this so far.
Well,
you know what I like is if you can pull
didn't work.
Pull up camera 4. I got Coach Elko over my left shoulder.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think that's for our radio audience. I apologize, guys. Just bear with us for a moment.
Oh, there he is.
But boom. There we go. Hey,
left
Coach
shoulder.
Elko. You wanted to correct something that I said earlier. What did I mispronounce?
You said, I think you said it like Yinling. It's Yingling. The beer.
Yingling, the beer.
It was a beer, so I was like, oh, Dave's not a big beer guy, so
I don't go to the meetings, as you know.
He does
Nick.
not go to the beer meetings.
I don't. I did for a long time, but no, that's not my jam anymore. So, guys, we made it through an entire show without David Nuño, your host, making the mistake. But Nick Savage came in for 5 seconds, made a huge mistake, and now it's going to have to go in the discrepancy report. But we had a lot of fun stuff on the show today. Marty Smith, as always, was fantastic. Kirk Bohls renewing the rivalry every week. We will renew the rivalry with Kirk. We'll look back at some of the games between A&M and Texas, and then, of course, get into some more storylines. Plus, if you're a premium subscriber, check out the Lone Star Look Back. This week, I talked to Dave Elmendorf about some of his time against the University of Texas, so that's on the premium board. John Harris was on the show. Coach G was on the show. Max Wright, how about that? That was a good one. We're going to have Max on weekly. Jason Howell doing Recruiting Country. Great insight as always. And Peter Burns. Tomorrow on the program, it is a Thursday. Armin Katayan's joining the show. Looking forward to talking to Armin. If you guys don't know him, you should. He's an investigative reporter. He's been on HBO Real Sports. He's been all over the place. Has a book on college football that we will talk about and get his thoughts on all of that. And what else do we have tomorrow? Tomorrow's Thursday. So we've got, McGee and Swope, the return of the buddies. We've got AT. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the fan show will be back. And that is brought to you by Prize Picks. How about that? All right. That's going to do it for TexAgs Live here on a Wednesday. We'll see you mañana.